Hello everyone, Ian here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The La Purisima Mission happens to be a historic state park of California, and one of the original 21 Spanish missions. Between 1769 to 1833, Catholic priests of the Franciscan order came to modern-day California to establish religious outposts known as missions, to evangelize the Native Americans and to westernize their culture. Though very controversial today, the end goal was to secularize the native population and ultimately to convert them to Catholicism. The La Purisima Mission was the 11th mission built and established on December 8, 1787. Located on the central coast of California in the town of Lompoc, this mission receives over 200,000 visitors each year. It happens to be one of the most significant restoration projects ever undertaken in American history, but we'll dive into that one a little bit later. Now, I grew up just a few miles away from La Purisima, so I've spent many years visiting this historic state park. I recently revisited when I drove up the coast to see my family, and of course I brought Jimmy along with me. In today's video, not only am I going to share with you some of the video footage that I took and give you a tour of my favorite areas, but I also want to share 3 important facts about this mission that you probably didn't know about, even if you visited as many times as I have. Located just 12 miles away from the California coastline, Mission La Purisima sits right on the outskirts of the small town of Lompoc. Upon entering the park, there is a beautiful visitor center that offers information and more background on the history of the mission. You can also go there for a map, highlighting all of the places to visit on the grounds. Because I had Jimmy with me this time, I didn't go in, but I highly recommend stopping there first if it were your first time visiting. Because this mission is so expansive and sits on a lot of property, it's crucial to bring some good walking shoes and plenty of water. Many benches and picnic tables are scattered throughout the grounds, so there are excellent spots to break at. After leaving the visitor center, we head to the main grounds. A scenic bridge and walkway lead up to the most prominent focal point of the mission, the bell tower. Upon arriving at the bell tower, you will notice 3 main buildings. Each building contains various rooms, many fully restored and furnished, reflecting early mission era life. Most of these rooms also have placards with additional information on the purpose and function of each space. The first building houses the cemetery, bell tower, and church. And inside of this building next to the bell tower, there is a small sanctuary, which represents a room used by the priests, or Padres of that time, to prepare for services and store items for Mass. Adjacent to the sanctuary is the main church, which happens to be my favorite place in the entire mission. From the painted details on the adobe walls to the colorfully painted chandeliers and massive oil paintings, walking into this church is truly like walking 100 years back into time. I have been to many of the Spanish missions, and the church interior of La Purisima is one of my favorites by far. Here's an important fact that you might not know. Fact number 1. Mission La Purisima is only one of 2 missions no longer owned or governed by the Catholic Church. 19 of the original California Spanish missions are still run and operated as regular places of worship for the Catholic faith, but La Purisima does not happen to be one of them. Today, as a state historic park, it stands as the only mission that reflects the full historical representation of mission life in the late 18th century of Old California. The second building at Mission La Purisima houses the cartel, also known as the barracks. This is where all unmarried soldiers lived and ate. Each soldier had a small cot made from wood with stretched rawhide that served as a mattress. Married soldiers had their own separate living quarters, reflective of the room you see here. There's also a kitchen that served not just as a place for food preparation, but as a communal dining spot for soldiers with families. This building wasn't just for housing soldiers, however. It also served as a location for candle making, weaving, pottery, and other various labor-intensive activities. These activities were introduced to the natives that lived at the mission in an attempt to acquaint them with Spanish practices such as ranching and farming, and to introduce them to European fruits and vegetables. There are many other rooms such as this one that give great historical context and more perspective into what mission life could have been like. This brings me to another important fact. Fact number 2. Mission La Purisima was one of the most significant historical restoration projects ever undertaken in American history. The original La Purisima mission was 4 miles south of its current location, but suffered major structural damage from an earthquake in 1812. The mission was then relocated and rebuilt at its current location. After the initial earthquake and relocation of the mission, a huge native uprising in the 1830s served as the catalyst for the eventual full abandonment and decline of the mission. In 1903, the Union Oil Company bought the property and donated it to the state of California. But by that time, most of the mission had yet again fallen into ruins, this time from years of neglect and erosion from the rain. It was not until the early 1930s that the Civilian Conservation Corps, a public work relief program, funded and provided the workforce necessary to start restoring the mission. By the late 1940s, most of the restoration of the mission was completed, and 30 years later, by 1970, La Purisima became an official National Historic Landmark. The third and final building of this mission is the Padres Quarters, which contains a few furnished bedrooms, a wine cellar, a library, a private chapel, and even a schoolhouse, which now features an old bell from the original mission and additional information on the history of La Purisima. This happens to be the only mission that I have ever been to that houses a full private chapel and separate quarters from the main sanctuary. After touring all 3 of the main buildings, I highly recommend that you walk around the mission grounds. Not only is the property expansive and beautiful, but also rich in history. Here's my final fact. Fact number 3. Mission La Purisima was the site for the bloodiest battle and largest native uprising from the mission system. This battle happened on March 16, 1824. At that time, La Purisima was overthrown by the native Chumash that lived at the mission. The initial uprising started at the Santa Ynez mission and soon traveled to La Purisima and eventually further south to Santa Barbara. Eventually order was restored, but just a short time after, the Spanish mission system was phased out and all of California's missions would soon lie in ruins. That's all for today's video, but stay tuned. I have recently traveled to many of the other Spanish missions of California, and I will be posting these videos very soon. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to my channel and share this video with a friend. Until next time.